At 6:00 a.m. on the 3rd of November 2025, there was nothing but calm water. By 7:15, a ghost appeared on the radar. 48 knots, no ID, running dark straight through the funnel. This is how a $13.6 million narcotics shipment tries to sneak into U.S. waters. And this is how a $2 Billion Arleigh Burke Destroyer, the USS Gravely, uses satellites, drones, and extreme precision to catch it without firing a single shot. We're inside the Combat Information Center. For the moment, the hunt began. You are about to see the complete takedown of a high-speed smuggling boat. A mission that proves dominance at sea isn't about missiles. It's about data discipline and being ready to strike. Thousands of miles above a P-8, a Poseidon reconnaissance jet sliced through the thin clouds, its sensors sweeping the sea below. Its AN/APY-10 radar painted a sharp image of the contact, matching it against a massive database of known smuggling patterns. Every second data pulsed across secure satellite channels to the destroyer below. Within minutes, the Gravely's crew had the full picture. A small twin-engine go-fast boat skimming north out of Venezuelan waters. No AIS signal, no response to hails. Target confirmed, the operations officer reported from the Combat Information Center. Likely narcotics runner. The captain nodded once. Maintain ROE. Hail once, then prepare intercept. From the bridge, the call went out first in English, then in Spanish. Unidentified vessel, this is U.S. Navy warship operating in international waters. Identify yourself immediately. Silence. No reply, not even static. The destroyer's crew moved into rhythm. There was no alarm, no shouting, just the quiet coordination of people who had trained for this hundreds of times. On deck, sailors secured cables, checked safety lines, and powered up the RHIB's rigid hull inflatable boats used for boarding operations. The twin turbines of the Gravely rumbled as the ship came to intercept speed. Up above, the Poseidon banked wide and came around for another pass. On its thermal cameras, the go-fast glowed like a spark against the cool water. The pilot's voice came through crisp and calm. 3 heat signatures on deck, vessel, approximately 12 meters, no fishing gear visible. Inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, the electronic warfare officer leaned closer to his console. They're dark, no radar emissions. Running silent. That was unusual. Smugglers usually fled at the first hint of a Navy hull. These weren't running, they were waiting. The captain watched the scope a moment longer before giving the order, launch the boats. Hydraulic cranes swung the RHIBs over the side, lowering them into the water one by one. Spray hit hard as their outboards roared to life. Each boat carried a mix of Navy sailors and members of Coast Guard Law Enforcement Detachment, 401 armed, armored, and recording everything on body cams. From above, the Poseidon filmed the approach. On board the Gravely, the bridge crew tracked at all distance-bearing closure rate. RHIB, 1 closing 300 yards. The voice came back through the headset. Copy. Vessel still stationary. 3 males on deck, hands visible. The tension wasn't loud. It was measured tight, professional. Every sailor knew how fast things could turn. A hand on the wrong object, a misread gesture, a hidden weapon, and the calm sea could erupt in seconds. As the RHIBs closed the final distance, the team leader keyed his mic. This is the United States Coast Guard. Prepare to be boarded. Still nothing. No movement, no attempt to flee. Just 3 men watching motionless as 2 American boats raced toward them. On the Gravely's bridge, one of the officers muttered, "That's strange. They're not even pretending to run." The captain's answer was quiet. "Then they're hiding something." Within minutes, the RHIBs reached the target. Engines idled. Grappling hooks clinked against metal. The boarding team climbed quickly, rifles lowered but ready. Above them, the Poseidon hovered at altitude, recording every second. Back on the destroyer, the CIC logged the timestamp 0642 a.m. Boarding initiated. What the smugglers didn't know was that the moment they entered, the funnel escape had already become impossible. Satellites, aircraft, and warships had them boxed in. They weren't just being chased, They were being surrounded by math. On the horizon, the Caribbean shimmered calm and blue, pretending nothing was happening. But below that quiet surface, $1 billion in hardware and training was closing in on a single fiberglass boat worth less than a pickup truck, and the Navy was about to find out exactly what it was carrying. The RHIBs sliced through the Caribbean like black blades, their twin outboards roaring in unison. Salt spray misted over the crew, Navy coxswains at the helm, Coast Guard led it, 401 operators crouched behind ballistic shields, M4 carbines held tight against their vests. The destroyer USS Gravely loomed several miles astern, a steel guardian, watching every second unfold through radar and optics. RHIB 1 to Gravely came the calm voice over comms, range 150 yards. No change in behavior. Vessel still dead in the water. On the Gravely's bridge, the captain leaned over the chart table. Copy that, maintain posture. Proceed to boarding when safe. His tone was even measured. Everyone aboard knew the choreography. This wasn't a chase, it was a controlled takedown. From above the P-8, Poseidon circled at 25,000 feet, its electro-optical turret tracking the encounter. The Go-Fast looked small, 12 meters of fiberglass floating motionless. 3 men on deck, staring up at the sky. No flag, no markings, no fishing nets. Just a stripped hull, 2 outboard engines, and a tarp covering something bulky midship. Unidentified vessel, the team leader shouted through a bullhorn. This is the United States Coast Guard. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Still no reaction. The men just stood there expressionless. No panic, no hostility, just the kind of stillness that made veterans nervous. Boarding team go. The RHIBs throttled forward, bumping hull to hull. Grappling hooks arced through the air and clanked against steel cleats. Within seconds, Coast Guardsmen were climbing aboard. Body cams rolled rifles at low ready. The first sweep was fast stern, clear deck, clear cabin locked. Bridge secure, one operator reported. 3 crew detained without resistance. Copy, the team leader answered. Proceed to search. What they found next erased any doubt. Beneath a canvas tarp lay 19 rectangular bundles wrapped in plastic burlap and taped classic cartel packaging. The odor of diesel and salt mixed with the chemical bite of cocaine residue. One operator slit a corner open with a utility knife. Inside were off-white bricks stamped with a green S logo burned into the surface. A quick field test turned cobalt blue. Positive cocaine, he said flatly. Estimated 45 pounds each. Back aboard the Gravely, the Combat Information Center confirmed total haul 860 pounds, estimated street value 13.6 million US. On the deck, sailors prepped evidence tables while the boarding team began transferring the bales. Each package was photographed, tagged, and weighed. The process was slow, deliberate, proof, chain ironclad for federal court. The suspects, now cuffed with zip ties, sat silently beneath armed watch. They claimed to be fishermen. The Gravely's crew didn't bother arguing. The evidence spoke louder than words. The destroyer's crew had seen this before. False hulls, fake licenses, and phantom radio calls were standard tricks. But something about this run felt off, too deliberate, too calm. It wasn't a smuggler's sprint. It was a test, a probe, of how fast and how far the Navy could react. As the last bale was lifted aboard, the Gravely's deck shimmered under the Caribbean sun. The piles of narcotics looked almost clinical, laid out against gray steel, 19 bricks of chemical white, worth more than a small town. In the Combat Information Center, analysts cross-checked radio intercepts from the Poseidon. A pattern emerged, short, encrypted bursts sent back toward the Venezuelan coast, likely relaying status updates to handlers in the Trinidad cartel network. That intel packet was already streaming to Joint Interagency Task Force South in Florida. By midday, the Gravely's crew had turned a smuggler's dream into a federal case file. Evidence sealed. Suspects secured. Operation logged. The destroyer's captain reviewed the final entry, signed his initials, and quietly said to no one in particular, another one off the board. No cheers, no headlines, just precision work in open water. The mission wasn't about fireworks, it was about control, tactical, legal, and moral. The Navy didn't need to shoot to win. They only needed to show that even out here in the vast blue, nothing of the Caribbean, the net was always waiting. By the time the sun tilted westward, the USS Gravely was running steady toward Puerto Rico. The morning's tension had settled into quiet professionalism. 19 bales of cocaine sat under guard on the aft deck, triple-bagged, tagged, and logged. 3 prisoners sat cuffed in the shade, guarded by armed sailors and Coast Guard officers who spoke little and smiled less. The job was done, but the real work was only beginning. Down in the Combat Information Center, the Gravely's intelligence section replayed the mission in slow motion. From the first radar ping to the final evidence tag, every second had been recorded. Thermal signatures, radar sweeps, encrypted radio bursts, all of it. Now part of an intelligence mosaic, feeding into Campaign Martillo, the multinational operation the U.S. calls the Hammer. Launched in 2012, Campaign Martillo is the Navy and Coast Guard's long game against the cartels. The idea is simple: strike the supply chain before it reaches American shores. But execution demands precision warships, surveillance, planes, satellites, and partner navies all sharing one operational picture in real time. Each bust like this one isn't an isolated victory. It's another node in a growing network of pattern recognition, one that lets analysts predict where the next smuggler will run before he even leaves port. On the Gravely's bridge, the captain briefed his officers, "Good work today. But remember, this is part of something bigger. Those bales aren't the prize. The data is." He was right. Every intercepted radio signal, every fuel log, every phone call made from that boat was a breadcrumb leading deeper into the logistics, chain names, routes, frequencies, timing. The Navy wasn't just stopping shipments. It was mapping an empire of organized crime, one vessel at a time. As the ship plowed through the evening calm, the crew stood topside for a brief pause. The ocean glowed bronze under the sunset. Some sailors leaned on the rails, silent, watching the horizon. Others cleaned gear or checked the RHIBs for the next mission. There was no victory parade, no fanfare, just quiet satisfaction. Another cartel payday gone. Another signal to anyone watching the ocean isn't yours to hide in. In Washington, analysts would later brief senior officials on the Gravely's operation. They'd highlight the coordination, the Poseidon's aerial surveillance, the destroyer's rapid intercept, the lead its textbook boarding, and the intelligence harvested from the encrypted comms. Together, those pieces painted a clear picture of the Tren de Aragua network's maritime routes. For the Pentagon and DEA, that information was worth more than the drugs themselves. The broader message was unmistakable. The U.S. Navy wasn't just projecting power, it was enforcing stability. Out here, global security doesn't always look like missiles and fighter jets. Sometimes it's a destroyer intercepting a speedboat before dawn, a camera logging evidence, and a quiet data packet traveling across the ocean to analysts thousands of miles away. Below deck, the captain signed the final log entry. Operation complete. All suspects in custody. No casualties. He paused, looked out toward the endless water beyond the porthole, and exhaled. The Caribbean looked calm again, too calm as always. "They'll try again," he said softly. "Then we'll be waiting," his XO replied. "Because that's the unspoken truth of this kind of war. There's no final battle, only vigilance. Every smuggler caught, every shipment seized, buys a few more hours of safety somewhere far from this deck." The narrator's tone returns, steady, reflective, the calm after a storm. Campaign Martillo continues one contact at a time. The smugglers evolve, the routes shift, but the pattern stays the same: speed versus surveillance, chaos versus discipline. And every time a destroyer like the Gravely answers the call, the message is clear. The ocean may be vast, but it's never empty. As the ship fades into the horizon, radar antenna spinning slow and steady, the final thought hangs in the air. So what do you think? Should billion-dollar destroyers keep doing the job of law enforcement, or should that mission stay with the Coast Guard? Drop your take in the comments, hit subscribe, and join the fleet. Because out here, every calm horizon hides another contact, and the Navy never stops watching.